Just 2 questions came up, and we'll review this now with any others. I like to do this. The person's eyes should be closed when their hand becomes cataleptic, because you want that free-floating sensation. If they see it, it'll bring them back to conscious awareness. It's an odd feeling because you've never said it's going to float. That sucker just does. And as a side note here, this is a little inner secret for you. Pure Milton Erickson. You want to get better results in your hypnosis right away? Do this one thing. Make sure your subject's hands are never touching together when you do your trance work. Your induction at any rate. Once you're past the induction, you can do whatever the heck you want. But this keeps people grounded in the here and now, and they become too aware of being here. When their hands are separated and relaxed, they get much more of a free-floating feeling, which lends itself to trance better. So keep their hands separated. It's a great thing. Another thing with this that my 2IC Chris here, second in command, is so good at, is he always brings up this point that I sometimes forget to mention, only because I'm at such an advanced age. The point is this. Do you want to make your point?
Yeah, do you want me
the relaxation.
Yeah, absolutely. What relaxation?
No, you're saying don't tell
relax.
it. Yeah.
Don't tell your subjects to get all relaxed before you go for catalepsy, or what's going to happen. Same thing we had with Seth here. Immediately, just super relaxed. You're not going to get catalepsy. If you want catalepsy, don't suggest relaxation first. Suggest it after. In addition to that, another major point on this one, when we're going around and showing people to do this induction, a lot of times you'll start in this handshake position, eyes closed now, and people end up holding onto the hand for a long time or touching the hand for a super long time. It's quick, it's just borrow that hand, eyes closed now, begin to notice all of those changing sensations in that hand and become aware of a developing trance. So, did you notice how little time I spend touching his hand? Just enough to create the catalepsy. The hand is floating.
It's this very nebulous, and it stays. Thanks, buddy. All right. Yeah, it's good to keep that in mind. Also, the other thing about anytime you're attempting to produce catalepsy first, you don't want to say relax. A friend of mine, Steve McGarvey's an NLP trainer. He's an excellent hypnotist. But the one phenomena he could not create was the hand levitation induction. First of all, I think even though Erickson demoed this in 1929 for the Clark Hall seminars, it broke the world because it was amazing. He would just talk to you until your hand rose up with your eyes open, eventually touched your face, and you fall into trance. It's so much freaking work to get it to happen. But Steve could never get it to work. And I said, show me. Deconstruct, I'll help you fix it. It's one mistake was that one. Okay, sit there, relax completely. How are you going to get the limb to rise if it's relaxed completely? You want to do a hand levitation? Use the magic words Derek Balmer taught me. I want you to let your right hand rest on your leg as lightly as possible. Oh, it's already lifting when you say that. Give yourself all the advantages that you possibly can. Any other questions about that? You see how it is a utility thing. Use it as an induction. Use it to show you where they are as they're going further into trance. Whatever you need to. It's extremely powerful. Cataleptic inductions are leverage inductions. They pry leverage in North America, leverage in England. They pry the door open to enable you to create a trance very, very quickly by causing some phenomena that you can then cascade into a trance. Question, Ken?
So just to be clear, it's not an interrupt, actually. It's an induction of a kinesthetic with the eyes closed.
Correct. This is not a pattern interrupt like the Erickson handshake interrupt that we also teach. That is a tote. It comes from cybernetic theory, test, operate, test, exit. Human brains run through patterns. So I want to walk through a door for the first time. I'm in this place. Test. Is there a doorknob? Yeah. Operate. Test. Did I go through? Yep. Exit. T-O-T-E, tote. That way, that little program runs unconsciously. I do not have to rethink it every time I see a door with a different shaped doorknob. Oh, this one's a lever instead. Oh, man, how am I going to get through this sucker? Let's get some screwdrivers and try to get the hinges off. You know, so no, we just test, operate, test, exit, we're through. But we're weird beings because if any loop that is habituated becomes interrupted in the middle, we are desperate for closure. We can't handle those loose ends. My wife does this to me all the time. She's not a hypnotist, but she's great at this thing. And we've been married 36 years, and I still call her my first wife just to keep her on edge. So she does this. See, the human brain has this thing happen called a Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect says that any loop that is left open, that is not sufficiently shut, creates a sense of importance. So when she says to me, you know, we should, and stops talking. I go, what? She said, what? I said, we should what? She said, what are you talking about? I said, you just said we should What is it? She said, I don't know. I said, Zeigarnik effect. I know about the damn thing. It's still affecting me. I can fix it. Hey, speaking of which, if you want to know how to say I'm a hypnotist in American Sign Language, it's awesome. Someone showed me who only signs, and it's this: I am a hypnotist person. So just point to yourself. That's the sign for hypnosis, and that's person. I'll show you one other. It's the only other one I know. Cheese head. It's not quite as useful, but it gets the job done in some circumstances. So, Zeigarnik effect. So what Ken was asking is when I'm doing a handshake interrupt, so we get the hand halfway through a handshake. What's half a handshake? I pull my hand away, I change it, and when you interrupt a loop in the middle, the brain looks for resolution. So that's why you can immediately give instructions, and typically whatever you ask them to do, they will do. Any questions about any of this so far? Oh, wonderful. You again.
If you're confident in both of those methods,
I am. Stop dissociating. Yes, I'm very, very, very confident in it. Flexibility behavior, you know, whatever, it depends what you want to do. When I was doing therapy all the time, I never, ever, ever, he's asking why not just combine the methods if you're confident in both of them. Sure, if you like. You know, one is the handshake interrupt that we haven't actually done. If you can do that, and if you can do kinesthetic ambiguity, why not just combine? Sure, you can combine them if you want, but you have two completely distinct methods here. The handshake interrupt induction will cause the hand to move towards the face, bang, they drop into trance, or you can do the street variant where you drive the person's hand into their face and it does exactly the same thing, only faster. You got to be careful of the nose, all that thing again, but yeah, the handshake interrupt is a different thing. That's interrupting a pattern, whereas this one, as Ken asked, is creating a kinesthetic shift. Kinesthetic ambiguity, ambiguity being within any system. What is it? Is it this or this? We see it in optical illusions. Is it two faces looking at each other, or is it a vase? That's ambiguity. Ambiguity in the audio sense. Hypnotizing hypnotists can be tricky. Whoa, there's at least two ways to take that. Kinesthetic ambiguity. He's touching, he's lifting my hand. No, it's not. Oh, he's not even there. What's going on? I'm cataleptic. Catalepsy is really useful. Many years ago, and I'll show you another one. Many years ago, a different hypnosis organization came to Toronto and they did a weekend-long training. And they taught people to read scripts at each other like weapons. You're getting tired, you're getting sleepy, damn it, you're falling into a trance, this kind of thing. And I went in and said no previous experience because I wanted to see what they're teaching, because Chris and I like to keep up on other organizations. And many of them, David Snyder and Melissa Tiers and Carl Smith and Kevin Lay, they're doing phenomenal work. And a lot of other trainers who are here. I think we got a great conference for that. But this was not the case. And just the system was flawed, not the person. And so he taught us all, 19 of us, and I was acting normal, and I had my Hypno Boy costume underneath my clothing. And he said, okay, now we got to do hypnosis. And everyone, oh no, we have to read these things at each other now. What are we going to do? And he counts and he says, oh, there's 19 of you in the class. Somebody has to sit this out. Unless somebody wants to hypnotize me, my hand goes up. And he's like sort of surprised. And I came up to the front, and he says, he hands me a script. And I said, can I do it without that? He said, well, if you think you can. I said, I think I might be able to manage it. I said to him, would you like the hypnosis chair or the trance chair? Instant double bind. You pick the hypnosis chair, you're agreeing to go into hypnosis. You pick the trance chair, you're agreeing to go into a trance. And he said, I'll take the hypnosis chair. I said, that's right. This poor man, in just minutes, he had leg catalepsy, which is fun to create. The person can't stand. They can't move their legs. It's hilarious. You just give the metaphor of little kids on a beach would dig a hole, bury themselves up to the waist in sand. How much fun that was when we were kids, anchoring it to a fun state, and then their legs spontaneously lock up. He got time distortion. I got him out of it. He went up, walked through the wrong doorway into the service hallway. I was just like, yes! A power so great, it could only be used for good or evil. But catalepsy was built into it, the cataleptic legs. Catalepsies are great convincers when you're working with clients. Now, when I say a convincer, I'm not talking about suggestibility test. A suggestibility test or a set piece is something one is doing before trance to build heteroaction, Andre Weitzenhofer, 1957, to get people motivated towards going into hypnosis, whereas a convincer is done when they're already hypnotized. That's so when they come out of it and say, I don't think I was hypnotized. And you say, why's that? And they say, well, I heard everything you said. Yes, because you're supposed to. If you can't hear everything I say, it's a completely different state. It's called death. But this enables you to point back and say, remember you attempted to lift your legs and you couldn't? Yes, I remember that. I must have been hypnotized. And you say, that's right. So, that's right, of course, is the absolute natural Milton Erickson amplifier. That'll deepen trance right away. I mean, it's really, really great. Anytime you see anything that looks like hypnotic phenomena, increase lower lip size. Naturally, the lower lip does not really increase in size, but if you take a snapshot mentally of it in advance, as the person goes into trance, one of the things that happens concomitant with trance is the mandibular angle opens and relaxes, and the lower lip seems bigger, and that means to you it's starting to work. In fact, if you're dealing with someone who is plagued with internal dialogue that's all over the map and they're analyzing everything you're doing, have them unhinge their jaw a bit so their teeth are not touching and the tip of their tongue is touching behind their upper teeth. This comes from Chinese medicine, and I don't have a clue why it works, but it does. It tends to quiet the internal dialogue immediately, and you will start to soften and calm down. So it's a very useful tool to get them there. So, we get the person into trance, or they're going in and they're showing some evidence of going into trance, and as soon as you see something shift, they develop hypnotic rash on their neck or their lower lip changes size, all you say is, that's right. And that's what Milton always did. He said, that's right. You could hear him say it with his gravelly voice, and when you say that, it amplifies whatever behavior they're doing and offers it back to them. Universal deepener, simple, easy. Don't say like one guy I heard, that's right. It's like, sure. I mean, I love hypnotists. We have all stripes and colors and types of hypnosis in this building, so many. That's why this conference is awesome. Some are so exclusive. This is the most inclusive. We can all bring our differences and things to it, and we can even do things like that's right if we want to. Probably not a good idea, though. What's that ringing sound? If it's the police, tell them I've already left. Do you want me to get it for you? I'd be glad to answer it. No problem. So let's look at another one. I want to show you a great thing that can be used as an induction or a deepener. Can I borrow this young lady here? Thanks. What's your name?
Angie.
Angie, that's correct. Come on over here for a second. I'm not going to double bind you, young lady. Which chair would you prefer?
I'll take the hypnosis.
Perfect. The hypnosis chair is that one. Angie, what I'd like you to do is we'll do a very, very simple thing here. I'm just going to lift this hand, rest it here. Look at me now, eyes closed now. Take a deep breath. And exhale. That's right. And start to drift into trance. All the way, that's right. And sleep now. So, this is breathing with the hand induction. This is Derek Balmer. It's just freaking brilliant. And just go deeper now. It automates very quickly. Now, sometimes, about 80% of the time, the hand will continue to hover. And when you take your hand away, it just floats cataleptically, moving nicely with their breathing. So you can count their breaths by watching their hand if you want. Although why one would want to is beyond me. So, she's comfortable. I'm seeing some simple trance indicators that are very nice. Her breathing has gone deeper, more abdominal. There's a microscopic twitching in her eyelids. There's lower lip size increase, facial flaccidity. We have facial color shifts. Now, suppose I want to deepen it even more. Here's this really cool way. So, Angie, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes and take a deep breath. And when you breathe in deeply, open your eyes as wide as you can and imagine you're breathing in through your eyes. As you exhale, let your eyes close and go even deeper. So open your eyes, breathe in through your eyes now. Exhale, close your eyes. Way deeper now. That's right, even deeper. We're going to do it again. Breathe in through your eyes. Open your eyes now. Exhale. And go more relaxed and feel even better. It's an induction as well. Anytime you want to trance somebody out, it's a great self-hypnosis induction. Let's just put this young lady back together. Angie, as you enjoy being here, I mean really enjoy. Really is an Ericksonian word. Milton would use it all the time. It leads to instant reconsideration of what you just said. So as you really enjoy this moment, I want you to know your brain is faster and more powerful than you ever dreamed. And I would like your unconscious mind, who's done a great job looking after you for all these years, to write some new software for you, some brain software, so that you'll get even more skilled at all of this stuff before you leave the conference. Your skills will increase to an amazing level, and you can keep the change. And on the count of 5, come back to now and notice how good you feel. 1, can easily come back to the surface. 3 times better than before we started all this. And be wide awake and revive on 5. Wide awake now. Hi!
Hi.
Nice postural recapitulation. Give this young lady a hand as she goes back. So, nice. Breathing with the eyes. Great induction. It's crazy for self-hypnosis. Get comfortable. Put something, a dot you can look at. Every time you breathe in, imagine the breath is coming to your eyes, filling your whole being, and let your eyes open wide. This actually comes from Qigong as well. So your eyes go. And as you exhale, either mouth or nose, go limp as your eyes close, and go deeper. And just, this has an amazing stress relieving effect as well, anytime you need it. This will deepen trance virtually every time. Of course, we also have built into this Dave Ellman's fractionation. Fractionation goes back to Hippolyte Bernheim in the 1880s when he was teaching with Libo at the Nancy School in France, and he discovered an interesting phenomena. He discovered in his writing, Suggestive Therapeutics, that if he hypnotized someone again a week later, they went into trance even further. And then a week later, they go into it even further. And about 12 or 13-year-old Dave Ellman in Fargo, North Dakota said, why is he waiting a week? Why didn't he do it the next day? Or the next hour? Or right away? So re-hypnotizing someone will deepen the trance right away, as will hypnotizing someone who's already hypnotized. It's a cool method. You just have them open their eyes, do a false awakening. It's easy to do that. Once you have a pretty good trance, to create a false awakening, the simplest way is to just say, on the count of 3, I would like you to open your eyes as though you were wide awake. They won't even notice consciously. They'll open their eyes. They'll often have a conversation with you. But if you have somnambulism, they won't know they're still in trance. And all you have to do is say, eyes closed now, and they're right back into it instantly. I really recommend you do all of these things with intention. It's crucial. I don't understand intention. It's the most sort of woo-woo thing I do. A friend of mine, Paul Giles, was my driver bodyguard all through my trips through England when I used to do a university tour of 12 universities in 2 weeks, every day but Sunday. And Paul Giles was 6'7", 325 pounds. Huge English policeman wearing all black. And he was hilarious. He'd do things like have a hand puppet when he'd pull someone over for drunk driving and put it over the edge of the door. See, in England, you can get away with this stuff. And he'd say, that puppet was called Mr. Sweep. It was a little black and white dog. And he'd say, I think he's been drinking, Mr. Paul, Constable Paul. He's been drinking. And if he could get the driver arguing with the puppet, he knew the guy was drunk. So, I've not been drinking. Yes, you have. You're a bad man. So Paul, he said, if the guy wasn't drunk, he had to let him go. What he used to do was take a green balloon and a piece of string, have the man get out of the car, close the door of the car on the roadside, blow up this green balloon, tie a knot in it, tie a string around it, tie it on the antenna of his own car, and then without saying anything, Paul would get in his cruiser and just drive away. You're standing outside your car with a green... Can I leave? So people would say to him, well, you know, Paul Giles, you're not like any policeman I've ever met. He'd say, well, I'm not. I'm a rather unusual policeman, I am. I'm a little bit woo. So when things in hypnosis get weird, we call it woo-woo, because it's a little bit woo. One of the things you can do to make almost all your work better is to bring your intention to it. Intention is woo-woo. I don't get it. I really don't. But intention to me is like cotton. I don't know how it works, but I use it anyway. So we have, let's say we have an equilateral triangle. This is the Mandel triangle idea. It's just a model, a way of looking at things. It's with 4 letter C's. The first one is confidence. And we know that if we are more confident, we will do better work. As our skill sets improve, our confidence will naturally increase. The interesting thing about an equilateral triangle is if you increase the length of any side, they all increase concomitantly to the same degree. So now, provided we're keeping this, we can now have here congruence. And you know what congruence is. We know completely when someone is congruent and when they're incongruent. When you are congruent, your internal dialogue or monologue, all your body systems, your thoughts, your state, your body language, everything is sending one consistent message at the same time. Just one message. And that is very easy to listen to and very easy to learn from. I was trained by the best. Let me tell you guys, I come up with a lot of stuff on my own, but I thank God I am standing on the shoulders of frickin' giants. People like John Grinder and Derek Balmer, I mentioned a number of times, and Willem Lammers, a Swiss psychologist. They all gave me some great stuff. And that has increased my congruence. I learned congruence from John Grinder. I model it from him. He's the most congruent human being I've ever seen. And he's monitoring an entire room full of people at once. So he's talking to someone here, and a hand goes up here, and he'll just go, Derek, just like this without looking. And someone 5 rows back, he's picked up the person's name 20 minutes ago and can see who it is and answers their question. But he's sending one consistent message. If you're congruent in your therapeutic work, your hypnotic work, whether it's stage, screen, therapy room, whatever it is, you'll get amazing results. Because incongruence sucks. We don't like it. It resonates badly with us. And you can hear it in people's words. Hey, how do you like our brand new house? Well, it's nice. And you hear the ... the ellipsis at the end of the sentence. It's incongruent. The words say nice, but the tonality is saying something different. And to get the incongruence broken and to get the deleted information, you just say, but? Well, but it's too close to the highway. You want your little kids to get run over, you idiot? So we hate incongruence. It shows up all the time. If you teach, present, do hypnosis, whatever, and you are congruent, when your body language, your words are sending this consistent message with your internal state, your belief system, people like that because it comes across as genuine because it is. There's no hidden message. There's no hidden agenda. And if you increase congruence, guess what? Your confidence rises too. The last one is conviction. And conviction is woo-woo. Conviction is intention. How many of you thought I was going to write Paul Giles? How many of you thought I was going to write Mr. Sweep, the puppet? So, conviction is intention. When you put your intention behind something, I have no idea how this happens, but things, I better hold it, things change in an instant. There is an energetic linkage between us. I don't understand how it works, but I started doing a lot of the tapping regimens 25 years ago. And if you do any of the tapping, I highly recommend you try my 6-step one. I'm real happy with it. It'll fix most things really, really fast. Just make sure the person tunes into the feeling because you want the weighted ego state in the executive. You don't want to be talking about that state. You want it there. And all they have to do is, the original faster EFT that Robert Smith came up with is brilliant, it's great, it's quick. It's one tiny improvement on that, in my opinion. I add the crown chakra spot here because this is, in Chinese medicine, the spot for anxiety. And I've had clients who are extremely anxious with free-floating anxiety, and all they have to do is tap this spot 50 times, a few times a day, and they, oh, I'm okay now. It gives them a reset. They're okay again. And because so many issues and problems have an underlying anxiety, I thought, let's throw this in. What does it take, 5 seconds more to do a run? So the 6-step tapping, it's here, center of the forehead, outer corner of the eye, under the eye on the cheekbone, under edge of the collarbone, either side. Squeeze the wrist. Breathe. Test it again. Oh, there's still some left. Top of the head, center of the forehead, outer eye, under the edge of collarbone. Squeeze the wrist. Breathe, relax. Test it again. This will clear most things really fast. And I use this with a lot of people and teach them to do it before we go into hypnosis. So I can get them to tap in trance or get them to do it afterwards, and it gives people homework. But just adding this makes a big, big difference. Just give it some consideration. So your intention, if you're working with a client, Milton Erickson alluded to this. He said you will get much more with a focused intent attitude than you will with an offhand one. I see far too much of this kind of hypnosis. Okay, yeah, and now I want you to look at my hand. Okay, let your eyes close. Okay, and now you can start to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Deeper and deeper and deeper, that's right. And now, okay, now start to imagine you're thinking, it's so offhand. There is no interlocking with a human being. That's why Chris and I recommend, after much experimentation, the placing of chairs makes a difference. We recommend you put your chairs like this. So this is a square. Not necessarily this close. You don't want to be breathing on somebody. You wouldn't bring them out of trance if you've been eating Thai food or something. But you want to be close enough. I know Kevin Lay and some others do it this way, which is very clever because you're facing the person, you can see them. But I'm always concerned if someone tumbles out of a chair or something, I'm not going to be able to catch them. It's not likely, but why take the chance, right? But this, never, 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 never this. Certainly not your knees touching either. This creates an energetic loop that is far too confrontational in my opinion. In fact, in martial arts, Chris and I are both instructors at Toronto School of British Jiu-Jitsu. It's a British Armed Forces system. And we teach this in a face-to-face confrontation, how dangerous this is. Because it's an old convict trick. If you're face-to-face with someone, if you want to intimidate them, you suddenly invade their space and shift your focus to their left eye and blank your face. So you're talking, look, I don't want a problem, I don't want a problem. And we typically look at the right eye in Western society. And yeah, look, I told you, man, I don't want a problem. And he's still, and he's doing the monkey dance, and testosterone's rising. So now you want to shut him down. We enter the space and say, I told you, no, or whatever. And I look right at his left eye and I blank my face. And people say it feels like a physical pressure. They'll back right off. The only thing is, you better have the skill sets that if he does go up the scale with you, you can shut him down. Because this can push it up with certain types. But it works. It will shut people down very, very fast. Stephen Watts, a good friend of ours, is with Louisiana Sheriff's Department, and he uses this stuff with convict riots and all kinds of things. It's amazing. In fact, how many of you have seen the film The Usual Suspects? Kaiser Soze, right? Great film. There's a scene in that, whoever wrote it knew exactly what they were doing, because there's two crooks, McManus and Hockney, and they're trying to intimidate each other, and they stand so close, they got their left eyes 2 inches away from each other like this, just standing. It's absolutely amazing. But if you do this, this can be too confrontational for some people. So I recommend you do what police do in the interview. Go off to the side a bit. So this way, we are both aligned to a common point. I'm neither beside them nor against them, and I can catch the person if I need to. And this way you can still use your intention with someone. Everything you do, intend it to work. The C in the middle of the triangle is congruence. Is a calibration, because without calibration, the confidence, the congruence, and the conviction will be meaningless. If you can't see what you're doing is doing anything, it's essentially pointless to begin with, right? You must see what results you're getting. Oh, we still got time. Next question. Right back there. Yeah.
So I'm thinking about what you said about chair arrangement and how really that laying back is not the state. What do you think of starting in a chair, and then after you do certain work, transport, then you allow them to say, right now you're going to walk over, take a seat in the recliner.
If you like, I mean.
I think they want that. They feel like they're
I understand. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, and there's a degree of truth in that. In giving the client what they think it should be to meet their expectations and their model of the world. But you're the boss. And when I do hypnosis, I never have clients lying down, never have them in a recliner chair. I will typically have them in a straight back chair like this. And I don't want it to have arms either. Because if they have arms, there's certain catalepsy things I can't do, it'll get in the way. But I'm going to very carefully make sure that their personal ecology is looked after. They can maintain their balance, all of these things very, very carefully without any difficulty. I don't want them tumbling out of the chair. But if the person wants to do that, you know what you can always do? Do your change work and say, and now step over here, and eyes closed, and sleep in that hypnotic trance for 10 minutes. Then you give them both, right? Give them what they want. Put them in the S-Dale state, come back for them in 2 weeks. And make sure you're charging by the hour. Yes?
One way to interpret this wonderful 2 hours on Deepeners is that you actually haven't given any.
Correct. That's right. I haven't given you any Deepeners at all. I'm just showing you how to do hypnosis differently, which will result in deeper trances.
Correct.
Okay? So, recognize you are constantly sending signals to your client, and they're sending signals back to you. You have to be observing them. That's one of the number one problems. One of the two problems I see most with really good hypnotists, and what we specialize in, Chris and I at University of Toronto, we get great therapists. We've had psychiatrists come from Singapore to study with us, and all kinds of medical doctors and dentists and so on. We find even really good hypnotists have little areas in their training that they're doing things kind of strange. And if you can correct that, I sort of have an intuitive sense of tweaking those things. So people who are doing good work suddenly become they're doing great work. And it's not, you know, saying I'm brilliant or anything like that. I always say to my wife, you know, genius is mysterious, honey. And she always says, yeah, but genius doesn't have to be stupid, does it? You know, it's good point. Forgot to buy the milk again. But what I am saying is, I said, I am standing on the shoulders of giants. I mean, honestly, I have lived, eaten, and breathed this for 42 years. And I was doing hypnosis for 10 years prior to that. The first time I hypnotized someone, I was 12 years old. I hypnotized Wayne Gibbs, made his hand cataleptic and numb, and stuck pins right through the tips of his finger, and he couldn't feel it, and they were bleeding, and his mom was furious. And I ran into him a few years ago, and he's in his 50s now, and he said, hey man, it's great to see you. I remember you used to hypnotize me, stick pins in my fingers. I said, yeah, you were patient 0. And he said, what are you doing nowadays? Funny you should ask, Wayne. Just, can I borrow that hand for a minute? But yeah, we don't have to get weird about it. But that's the thing about hypnosis. It's so wide open. There's so many possibilities. But Chris and I think that very often people start to move into complexity that they really don't need to. And a lot of this can be corrected fairly quickly. And I said, you know, it's not saying I'm any better at this than anybody else. I'm just saying, after 42 years, you're sometimes a little bit further down the yellow brick road than other people are. They just haven't got caught up quite yet. But I've still got a long way to go before I reach the Emerald City, too. And the scarecrow and the lion and all these wonderful things. Question?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
As you're doing your inductions, they're rapid inductions.
Yes.
And as I got more and more skilled, I got a couple of things with this stuff, being in a clinical setting for 30 years, as a psychotherapist, and God, I'm not no longer a psychotherapist. Dropping into trance.
Yeah.
They need to be seated. I had a gentleman over here, and I placed him against the wall. I just said, you know, safety, because you need to make sure that if you're dropping them, whether it's a hand or a body, that they have somewhere
to drop. That's right. It's like if you're pushing them out of the plane, make sure they got a parachute on. Right? I totally agree. The question is basically, with these rapid inductions we're seeing now, where you're dropping people into trance, you're getting a PGO spike in the brain. They all work the same way. The pons geniculate body and the occiput are a superhighway in the brain, and they're for your survival. So you're walking through a strange city at night, and you see someone hiding behind a garbage can in an alleyway, and you, oh, shoot! And you get this PGO spike in your brain, and this PGO spike clears the mind for information. It's part of your survival, and you, whoa! And you go into your fight, flight, freeze, you know, sequence where you're going to try to fight the saber-toothed tiger to the death, but you can't because you're a human and it weighs 750 pounds. You try to run, but it's real fast, and then you freeze and become catatonic as it consumes you. So you get this PGO spike happen. That's where the hypnosis becomes handy. And as the tiger continues to consume your body, so what happens is when the spike fires, then it comes because your executive function, the front part of your brain, goes offline temporarily. It's supposed to. It's slower. And they go, oh, shoot, it's not someone waiting with a gun. This is somebody, a plastic bag that somebody just put there. And you, okay, and you gradually come back to normal. A PGO spike is triggered through novelty, shock, surprise to varying degrees, and clears the mind. So we're seeing this with people. They'll get a compliance set. Gil Boyne did this brilliantly. Okay, take a step forward and just look here and sleep like this. Now when you shock them with a PGO spike, the word sleep goes right past the critical faculty into the unconscious. They'll respond immediately. You will get a trance instantly, and it'll usually be a deep one. But we teach in Toronto, ecology first. Your client's safety, well-being, and happiness is your #1 priority. And that's the one thing that kind of scares me about street hypnosis. I have done it. We did it in a documentary called Mind Mavericks, and we did it all through Dundas Square in Toronto. And I don't do it because, to me, I don't do it other than the demonstration, because to me, street hypnosis, even though some people are really good at it, I see it as doing your job and not being paid for it. You know, let's go do some street architecture. Let's do some street dentistry today. Yeah. Oh, I filled a tooth. Okay, have a great day. Yeah. I paid for that amalgam. Bye. Okay, so anyway, you got it. Yeah, ecology first, please, guys. Ecology first. Be very, very careful with that. These supremely fast inductions, but you can do it conversationally too. That's what I mean about the two ends of the spectrum. In the documentary, and Chris actually has this on video, we went to the Dominion Hotel in Toronto for lunch, me and 3 other hypnotists, Didi Regattos, Hank Stone, and Gabriella Pittman, who's a physicist as well. And we went for lunch there, and we started layering on hypnotic language while our waiter was bringing stuff to us and building ridiculous compliance sets. Could you please put my beer on the edge of the bar there? Oh, sure, sir. Takes it over and puts it down. And can we have some more cutlery? Sure. So he says, complying. Could I have my beer back, please? Yes. And Hank said, more cutlery, please. Got like 15 sets of cutlery. And this is creating a profound compliance set with this guy, Ryan, who we didn't know. And they caught it all with hidden camera. And then I hit him with... so I can't remember the method, tranced him out. He was standing and going, Fwah. And then I said, when you awaken, on the count of 3, you'll forget all of this, and I will offer to pay our bill with a Toronto Public Library card, and you will accept it. So we had glasses of wine, fairly hefty lunch, and he comes back and he's brought the bill, and I said, oh, I've only got a library card. Without missing a beat, he goes, yep, we take that. He says, yep. And he goes to the back of the restaurant, and you see him putting it in the machine, trying to make it work. He doesn't give up, and then he just goes, and he does it by hand, and he comes over, and I said, can I put the tip on here? Yep, put that in the library card too. And then I bring him out of hypnosis, and this kid, you see him come back to the real world, and he's like, why would I do that? I mean, no recollection of it. So you don't necessarily need PGO spikes even in street hypnosis and that. But yeah, guys, if you get nothing else out of this, be careful. I mean, please be careful. It's so many people are out to sue us. They really, really are. And we are gaining momentum that we should be our own governing body. You know, nobody else should tell us how to do hypnosis, because I've had, you know, hear different people, psychiatrists and so on, saying no one should be allowed to do hypnosis but psychiatrists, dentists, and psychologists. So my dentist, Bill Kerr, could, in theory, in Toronto, go to the library, get a book on hypnosis, and that very day use it in his practice completely legally, because he's qualified, because he's a dentist. But I can do it most of my adult life and not be qualified. I mean, it's nuts. So we have to stay together as a body and ignore our little differences. You know, it's like churches arguing over baptism. They're arguing over quantity of water that they're using, and it really doesn't matter if they believe basically the same thing. I think we're all kind of on the same page, and as we gain momentum, we can help a lot of people. But the world is litigious. People sue each other a lot. And you see, Darren Brown just went through an episode a bit ago. A woman at his live show suddenly, she went into hypnosis in the audience. He wasn't even doing that. And she became cataleptic and rigid and started having seizures and was trying to get him to come down in the audience and help. Attention need, maybe? I wonder. But he brilliantly just refused to do it. No, he went on with the show. He said, I didn't cause that. He would not own it. I got a phone call years ago, complained to my agent. A man in Vancouver wanted to talk to me. So I spoke to the guy. He said, oh, you hypnotized my sister years ago, told her she was covered with spiders, and now whenever she sees a spider, she has a panic attack. First of all, I've never done that on anyone in my life. I wouldn't do that. Why would I try to create a phobia or an anxiety for someone? I said, it wasn't me. Oh, no, it was definitely you. I said, sorry, you're wrong. It wasn't me. Here's what my agent suggested. You should make an appointment and hypnotize her and give her a free hypnotic session. Oh, and admit that, say it was me who did it and take responsibility for this. Cover your butt, guys, every chance you can, because it's dangerous out there. And we watch each other's back, and we get as skilled as we possibly can and continue to present this. Any other questions? We're rolling into our last 7 minutes here. All right. I would like to give you my, no, don't stop. You're getting my final metaphor. All right. I'm going to give you my closing metaphor. This is one we use in Toronto. This is a Derek Balmer one. He got from the book The Magus by John Fowles, which is one of the most brilliantly hypnotic books I've ever read. So I'm going to get through it in our remaining few minutes. Please listen carefully. Separate your hands for the full effect. Rest your hands on your legs. Feet flat on the floor, building your compliance set. Let this go into your unconscious exactly where it's supposed to, so you can be the best you possibly can. And with this, I take my leave of you at the end of it. Many, many years ago, in a land far away, there was a young, handsome prince, and he was raised to believe in all things except 3. He was led to believe there were no such thing as islands, no such thing as princesses, and no such person as God. And that's how he lived his life. And he believed in everything except those 3. And then by the time he reached 21, his father let him leave the kingdom for the first time and see the world. And so this young prince loaded his favorite horse with supplies and money, put on a cloak, took his sword to side and a bag of money, And climbing aboard his horse, he began to ride to the distant horizon for the very first time. And after 3 long days of riding, he reached the ocean, something he'd never seen. And out on the ocean were these strange bodies of land that seemed to be floating. And as he was marveling over this, he saw that on the bodies of land, there were these strange and beautiful creatures wandering back and forth. And as he wondered what they were, he was suddenly aware there was a man standing at his side. And he turned, and to his amazement, the man was wearing full evening wear, a jacket, a top hat, carrying a cane. And he said, "What are you looking at, my son?" He said, "I'm looking at that strange land floating on the water." The man said, "Those are islands, my son. It's not floating." And he said, "But there's no such thing as islands." And the man laughed. And the prince said, "And what are those strange, beautiful creatures on those pieces of land?" And the man said, "Why, those are princesses, my son." And he said, "But there's no such thing as princesses either." And the man laughed again, heartily. And the prince, getting annoyed, said, "Next thing you're going to tell me that God exists." And the man smiled and bowed and said, "I am God." The prince, completely confused, climbed back on board his horse and rode hard for 3 days and reached his kingdom again. When he entered the castle, his father was giving a great banquet. And he said, "Oh, you're back already, are you?" And the prince said, "Yes, father, because you have lied to me. You told me there were no princesses and there were no islands and God did not exist. But I met a man, I met God himself, and he told me there are princesses, and I saw them, and I saw the real islands." And the king laughed and said, "And what did God look like?" And the prince said he was wearing evening wear with a top hat and carrying a cane. And the king said, "And did he have his sleeves rolled up to the elbows?" The prince thought back and said, "Yes, he did." And he said, "That is the mark of a magician. He bewitched you into seeing islands that did not exist and princesses that did not exist. He's playing with your mind." The prince, furious again, took a couple of hours rest, grabbed fresh supplies, a new horse, and rode 3 days hard again and reached the ocean again at daylight. And amazingly, the islands were still there. And the princesses were still there. And sure enough, when he turned to the side, the man in evening wear was there again too. And he said, "What are you doing back, my son?" He said, "I'm back to confront you because you have lied to me. You are just a magician. These things do not exist." He said, "They do exist, my son. But your father is a magician, and he's prevented you from seeing them, from seeing the truth." And he said, "My father is a magician?" And the man laughed again. And the prince rode hard for 3 days back again. When he arrived, his father was in his bedroom, sitting up in bed by candlelight, reading some ancient scrolls. And he said, "Father, I saw the man again. Is it true that you are just a magician?" And the king said nothing. He just smiled and rolled up his sleeves. And the prince was overwhelmed and said, "Father, I cannot take this. I do not know what to believe anymore. I wish I was dead." And the king said, "Very well, my son." And he made a magical gesture towards the doorway. And death appeared, wearing long robes, a skull for a head, and carrying a scythe. And he looked at the prince, and the prince shuddered. And the king said, "So, my son, choose this day. Either choose death or choose magic." And the prince looked back at death, and death beckoned to him. And he shuddered again and said, "Father, I choose magic." And the king said, "Well done, my son. Roll up your sleeves, because today you too have begun to become a magician." And so may I say, as your new friend to all of you, remember to keep your sleeves well rolled up. And as you go back into the real world, whatever that is, do it in a glanative and powerful and thoroughly enjoyable way, because if it ain't fun, it just ain't worth doing. Thanks for coming out, guys. I really, really appreciate you having me here.